Now, the original Gears of War came out way back in 2006 and took the world by storm. With its dark and oppressive world, slick gameplay, and buttery smooth, for the time, third-person action. In my opinion at least, the series standardized third-person cover shooting with the degrees of freedom with aiming from cover, the going from cover to cover, and vaulting is all so smoothly done. It's a game that mechanically at least is as playable now as it was back then. But there's just something about Gears of War that has always made it a favorite of mine.
Target, we need your guns, over! Negative, we are also taking heavy fire, stand by!
The characters in Delta Squad are all written really well. Marcus is an iconic, rough and tough soldier who's a real hard ass, but deeply cares for his squad and those closest to him. Dom, Marcus's best bro, another good soldier and on the hunt for someone. Damon Baird, the nerd fixer of the group, who is a real smart ass but comes in clutch when the squad needs something fixed. And finally, the legendary Coltrane.
We're here to retrieve the sonic device.
And to get you guys out of here.
Well, hell yeah, we've been waiting for the chopper, but the radios don't work for shit. Sir.
A former football star, beloved by the people of Sarah, a good soldier, and good buddies with our old friend Mr. Baird. But who are Delta Squad up against, you may ask? The Locust. Big units of creatures that are brutal and like to pop up anywhere. That really keeps humanity on the back foot with their relentless attacks on the humans of Sarah. Therefore, with introductions out of the way, we get into the game. And we meet the person whose boots we step into on this journey, the legendary Marcus Phoenix. Getting rescued from jail by Dom, as the prison Marcus is in is under Locust attack, with Marcus and all the other surviving prisoners being pardoned. But now that Dom and Marcus are reconnected, it's time to get the fuck out of there. Boys go block to block of the prison, clearing out any Locusts in a very clever tutorial section. See, it's quite smart as Marcus is being rusty and locked up and all, so Dom offers to run him through the game's basic controls, and also for any first time players, giving them a solid way to learn the mechanics, brush up on your Locust killing skills. But after the tutorial is complete, the boys are finally outside into the prison courtyard for our first proper taste of combat. Combat has a real intense atmosphere. Everyone is trading shots and the enemies will rush you or throw grenades and occasionally flank you, putting your skills to the absolute test from the outset. But for now, we flank those pesky Locusts and take them out. But after the boys make short work of the welcoming party, it's time to get out of there, so the boys book it for the nearby chopper, and that, folks, is the prison. But from prison to Delta Squad, Marcus meets his new squad mates, Lieutenant Kim and Anthony Carmine.
Welcome to Delta Squad.
Where are we going?
Embry Square. Colonel Hoffman's waiting for us.
Hoffman. Oh, shit.
As the lieutenant is briefed by Colonel Hoffman about the squad's mission, they need to locate a mapping device called the resonator to help humanity find the source of the Locust tunnel so it can be blown up. But after a short reunion and briefing, we set off into the city. And I gotta say, this is the first place where the remaster comes into its own. The new skyline of the city gives so much more to the scale of the war's destruction compared to the older, more insulated visuals. But after we get our bearings of the city, our new trusty weapon, the Lancer, a rifle with an underslung chainsaw which is great for close encounters, we come across our first Locust emergence hole and the game's way of closing them with grenades. And a nice little in-world mechanic.
Back in your hole!
Hole has been sealed.
If you want to stop the Locust reinforcements, you can throw a grenade down one of their emergence holes as they appear to stop them from climbing up to meet you, which is just smart design. Therefore, after a little stroll through the city, we come across what appears to be Alpha Squad, but thankfully isn't, and head off to find them in their House of Sovereigns. But now we must choose our path. In the Gears series, you from time to time get the choice to pick your path. I don't know if it's for replayability or just for some change of scenery on repeat playthroughs, but yeah, each path has its own enemies and challenges, which in turn helps whoever took the other path, keeping things locked in and feeling meaningful. Therefore, after clearing a path to the nearby machine shop, we get stopped by a Troika, the Locust's main heavy machine gun, and another prime flanking opportunity. Either having you run it straight at the machine gun or be smart about it and push to the left of the group to drop in for an easy kill. But after the boys mop up the Locust reinforcements, it's onto the House of Sovereigns and time to assault it. It's a pretty decent fight. You have Locusts coming at you from multiple angles, so it's a great opportunity to make those grenades sing and jib a few Locusts. Also to test out the iconic Gears weapon, the Nasher shotgun. A lever action 12 gauge that at close range turns the Locust hordes into meat chunks. So very satisfying to use. But once the squad introduces the Locust to some buckshot, Carmine's weapon is jammed, but as he goes to ask for help, a nearby Locust sniper kills him. Rest in peace, Carmine. But after the boys get that oh so sweet revenge against that pesky sniper, we head into the House of Sovereigns and come across the legendary Coltrane.
think we just found Alpha.
Move!
On his own and holding his own, shit-talking all the nearby Locust. But thankfully we arrived just in time to keep him from getting overrun, and he tells us the rest of his squad are nearby, pinned down, and we better go bail them out. Therefore, after linking up with Cole, we run into some trouble with our radios, which probably means there's cedars nearby. Big, beetle-like creatures that spew horrors and really aren't fans of radios. We get our hands on humanity's answer to this problem, the Hammer of Dawn.
Triangulate.
A large and deadly laser beam weapon that is great for anything from cedars to Brumaks to Locust with devastating effects. Therefore, in order to re-establish contact with Alpha Squad, we need to take out the cedars in the area with our new toy and head off to find Alpha. But along our route to Alpha's location, we have to deal with another turret ambush set up by those Locusts. I tell ya, the Gears series loves its flanking opportunities. You can push right or bomb rush the gun for extra challenge, but after clearing out that little distraction, it's onto a meeting with the charming Damon Baird.
Who knows you, baby?
Yeah, group hug.
Besties with Cole and a smart tech guy of the squad. Therefore, after linking up with Alpha and getting our hands on the resonator, it's time to get shot down. Something extra sinister about this ambush. One of the central leaders of the Locust, the big bad General Ram, is there to meet Delta and send the lieutenant onto the next life.
They have located another squad. Our strategy remains the same.
But from tragedy to horror, we escape the ambush and now have a new threat to deal with, the Berserker. A feral, massive meat stick that tracks you by sound, and his shoulder charges are deadly, so it's best to avoid him when you can. Leading the big snarling beast through the tombs, playing chicken as the squad uses the mast of the Berserker to create them an exit. But it is finally payback time, as once the menacing Berserker is outside, it's time for your old friend the Hammer to make an appearance. Play chicken with the Berserker's charge attacks, and then when he stops, it's Hammer time. Therefore, after Delta deal with the Berserker, we get introduced to a new enemy, the Boomer. Tank of a Locust, roughly twice the size of the regular grunts, and who are known for lobbing grenades at you, which depending on the fight makes them a priority target, so the next time you pop your head up you don't get turned to pink mist. Now Delta has a problem. They need to get a fair distance to plant the resonator, but how will they get there, you ask? Mighty good question. Dom has a buddy in the Stranded. They're non-cog friendly people just trying to get by on their own without any military assistance, and Dom knows the Stranded have a vehicle that the boys can use. As the leader of the local Stranded owes Dom a favor, but because in this future cars don't come to you, you go to them. The squad head off to Chap's gas station for some gunfights at night. But with night comes a new threat, the Krill. The Krill are bat-like creatures that like to snack on you if you stay in the dark too long. So pro tip, do what you can to stay in the light. To combat this issue, the Stranded have left propane tanks around the city, perfect for lighting up the dark and oppressive city streets.
Shoot every propane tank you see from now on. We need the light.
People out here aren't gonna like that, Marcus. They use that shit.
It's either that or they kill us. So we do.
Going from cover to cover, dealing with the Locust, being extra careful not to linger too long. Therefore, after a few street fights, with the Locust making sure your path is lit to avoid the Krill, we come to a cool little set piece. Now, in order to get up this dark street, Marcus has to cover Dom with a large light as he pushes his way up to turn the lights on for Marcus in turn. But after Dom and Marcus have lit up the darkness, Chap's gas station is finally in front of us, with the vehicle intact thankfully, but the owner of the station bet on the wrong team and expected the boys to not make it. They're alive, so he didn't gas up the thing, but because nothing is ever easy, once the refueling process begins, the Locusts think, hey shit, those guys who are on their way to find our tunnels, we should probably stop them, eh? And it's a wave attack time. Just make sure not to shoot the tanks, as gunfire and petrol aren't friend, and don't worry, the old geezer will remind you of it plenty of time. But a few grunts can't stop Delta, so the boys and the geezer set off back to Stranded Stronghold to pick up Cole and Baird and move on. The night skies have a surprise for us. The crew, when they look at the boys' ride, see their next target. So using the light cannon on top of the rig, you need to balance driving with using the light turret to keep the vehicle working long enough to get back to the team. But Baird and Cole and the Stranded aren't doing much better than us, as the Locusts decided to crash their party in huge numbers. So from a joyride to a battle, the boys work to defeat the Locust Horde, threatening the Stranded. That's a fun little fight. Fighting from the way, dealing with wave after wave of Locusts, bullets are all around, explosions, and back and forth as the fight erupts and ends with an ambush of sorts from some boomers popping up behind us for an extra special surprise. But worry not, being in a Locust Horde, they aren't very fond of grenades. But after saving the day, the Delta boys head off to a nearby factory on their path to the resonator. But again, because things can't be easy, all that shooting and chaos in the last few hours has done a number on their humble junk vehicle, so it's time to dismount and search the factory for parts. But because all four of them together would be too powerful, they split up and come across Lambent Wretches. Like wretches from earlier, but they've been seen chilling around too much emulsion, the main fuel source in gears. Now the typical explodey enemies, so it's shotgun time whenever you see them. Therefore, after getting that introduction out of the way, the game's writing really shines. As Marcus and Dom are talking about Baird, and Marcus remarks,
In the dark?
Yeah, could be bad. But hey, don't tell Baird that. He's scared shitless as it is.
I don't know what exactly it is about this game's writing, but it can be so funny sometimes. But from a chuckle into a problem, after fighting through a good chunk of the factory, we come across a little game of the floor is lava with a hive of Lambent Wretches. Both Marcus and Dom need to get from one side to the other of the room, but the floor isn't the most reliable. So carefully, it's time to feel our way around the room, get it going left or right, trying our luck at the Lambent lottery. Thankfully, I'm not a quitter, and I find my way out onto the car control room where we link up with the boys and go for a nice little kart ride. And along the way, there will be Locust, gnarly smelting pits to contend with to keep the ride fun and keep you on your toes.
Into the fire! Reroute! Anywhere! Now!
Oh yeah!
I'm not gonna lie, this whole set piece of the minecarts is pretty fun. Getting into gunfights while rolling down the car tracks at speed, avoiding the hordes, keeping an eye out for wretches that don't believe in personal space. Yeah, this section's pretty fun. Therefore, after the boys survive that wild ride, it's time to head deeper underground to plant the resonator. Get the fuck out of there before all those pesky grill come back when it's daytime. But as the team head further underground, Dom gets a little nervous as this is the first time they've fought them on their home turf underground. Now I have to agree with the guy, it must be a whole nother thing to go from an even battlefield being on your enemy's home front. But fear aside, the boys cut a path through the mines, the site they need to get to. The mines definitely are spooky. Large, open, cavernous spaces with rocks and emulsion everywhere. Being the Locust home turf, they turn out in numbers to stop Delta. So it's time for plenty of fighting around rubble and rocks, backdrop with some crazy sights on our way to the mining platform.
Ah! Damn!
The remaster really improved the visuals on this one. But again, because things can't just be simple, Corpus stands in our way. A large armored spider beast that is a one-shot in melee, so stay your ass back and shoot it a lot. The boss fight with the Corpser is a two-phase fight. To really piss it off, you need to shoot it in the exposed legs when you can. Keep pushing and pushing the big fucker back far enough that you've got him trapped on the platform. So a solid strategy here is to bait him using your by now solid dodge rolling skills to get out of the way of an attack. It breaks two of those buckles holding the platform the corpse is on, and finally sending him into the emulsion colored abyss. Therefore, after surviving that carnival of pain, we pick up a new weapon, the torque bow.
Don't mind if I do.
A bow of sorts, and it has some torque behind it. But seriously, it's a charge up bow with an explosive attached. Great for surprising Locust, but also a nightmare for you on higher difficulties, as that one shot is a nightmare both ways. Finally, after horrors beyond comprehension that we've come across in the caves, it's finally time to clear the central platform. But this particular platform is guarded by several new enemies called Theron Guards.
You hear that? What the hell's that sound?
It's just the wind.
Yeah, right. When's the last time the wind said hostiles to you?
Yeah, basically you stand at ground but with some shiny new armor and that pesky torque bow from earlier. Take my advice and target them first so you have a much better time. The fight is tense because you need to take the platform, but one bolt from the torque bow could ruin your day. Clear the platform aggressively or be very careful. Either way, they both work pretty well. But after a series of hellish fights, it's finally time to plant the resonator and get the hell out of Dodge. But shit, they massively underestimated the scope of the Locust tunnels and they don't have enough information to make a solid strike on the heart of the hive.
Delta, bad news. It didn't work.
What do you mean, it didn't work?
But in a weirdly fortunate way, the whole seemed to be focused around Marcus's dad's house. So reluctantly, Delta head off to walk Marcus down memory lane and find out why the Locust love Marcus's dad so much. But after a short Raven flight, one of the Ravens goes down, as all Ravens tend to do. But thankfully, there are survivors at the crash site. But the game uses its different path mechanics to great effect here. Taking different paths to the surrounding buildings makes great use of the game's verticality and helps to keep whatever path you choose feeling meaningful and fresh. But after our little building clearing excursion, we come across the Raven survivors being robbed by a desperate stranded. But they can hardly leave wounded there, so Baird and Cole stay behind, and Marcus and Dom push on to find a path to the conservatory.
They're not going anywhere yet.
Alright. Dom and I will go ahead, clear the way. You catch up when you can.
Therefore, after some more street fighting, we come to the conservatory. Gorgeous large open area with nice trees and solid campusy vibes. But as we clear our way through the conservatory, we hear a familiar snarl. It's another Berserker. This time fighting it trapped in the main conservatory. How do we fight it, you ask? Just like busting down the doors from earlier, you now need to play chicken with the Berserker to knock down some pylons in the conservatory to let the sky shine through. And once that bright summer sun shines in, well, it's time to drop the hammer. The fight also has some great added tension as you only have so long of satellite coverage, so you need to get blasting with the hammer to take the Berserker down while you have the chance. Therefore, and once again, after dropping the hammer a few times, the Berserker goes down, and thankfully, we can move on. But before we get into the Phoenix Estate, I just wanted to make a quick note about the strength of Gear's weapons. There are only a handful in this first entry, but it never, to me at least, felt lacking. All the guns in the game are fun to use, so the small roster doesn't really feel so small. Now back to the action. We pick up with our heroes as they approach the Phoenix Estate and have to fight up some very vibey looking stairs on the way to the manor. There's something so satisfying about fighting up and taking enemy strong points. Makes my caveman brain very happy. After that Spielsbergian spectacle, we link up with the boys and it's time to clear the house itself, which just so happens to be swarming with locusts as the Phoenix Estate is chock full of locust holes, which is slightly annoying. But once inside, now I hope you brought your grenades because it's hole plugging time.
Coming out of that hole!
Plug it up!
The house is a very large open estate with an entryway and smaller rooms off to the sides, but the clearing is tough by the fact that Marcus's dad doesn't have much solid cover in his foyer, so you're limited to hiding behind the front pillars for safety. Therefore, after those holes have been closed, it's onto the cellar and Marcus's dad's laboratory, but the Locust sent some grunts and attacked the whole squad out with a single grenade, kind of shortening the whole lab battle. But thankfully for the war effort, Phoenix Senior has much more data on the Locust tunnels. There is no 5G in the area. Jack can't upload it via the bandwidth, so he needs to manually download the files. The boys head back upstairs to reinforce Cole and Baird, but thankfully we arrive in the nick of time as a boomer decides to Leroy Jenkins to the front door with a bomb on a tree trunk so his buddies can get in. The whole scene kind of reminded me of the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers with that Berserker lining up the bomb in the wall. But anyways, after taking out the waves of Locust, it's time to book it for the Junker and escape. Now, funnily enough, I make it but get jibbed in the same frame as the cutscene plays, so the cutscene saved me from having to replay the chase section, which I thought was kind of funny. Therefore, after all that fun, we're getting closer to linking up with the train that COG are using to deliver their Lightmass bomb to the Locust Hive. But along the way, and out of something like a bad dream, a Brumak appears to put a stop to their plan. Therefore, after playing a very tense game of cat and mouse with this dangerous beast, and needing to power up a bridge in their path, it's finally time to 1v1 the Brumak. No platform this time to make our job easier, but there is a way to weaken it. You need to get the monster to kneel, though targeting all its weak points, its legs and its chin. So remember to revive Dom and keep moving, otherwise those machine guns will absolutely wreck you. After you do enough damage to the Brumak, it finally kneels, revealing the Locust pilot on its back, and you guessed it, Smoke the driver, and the beast goes down in a very satisfying hail of gunfire.
Let's take this guy out!
But after dealing with that pain in the ass, we hear from the radio that the train we're supposed to board has now been overrun by Locust. But I gotta say, good choice on the developers picking the final mission to be a train level. Solid choice. But this train has a few surprises in store for us. After clearing the first few cars and meeting up a locked door, Jack needs to cut it open. Another pesky Berserker joins the party. Now with the tight train carriages, you need to avoid him in this game of dodge rolling. It can be a little tricky, but you don't actually need to kill him like before. Thankfully, this time you just need to disconnect one of the cars with him on it. Therefore, our next challenge on the path to clear this train is to use some miniguns on the roof of one of the carriages. Turn a bunch of Reavers, Locust flying enemies into mincemeat. But the tense problems don't stop there. Wretches somehow are smarter than first thought and are now disconnecting our car from the train. So Marcus and Dom are in for a desperate race to the cars ahead so they don't get left behind. Therefore, after all that is dealt with, it's finally time for the main event of this matchup of Cog vs Locust, with the Marcus and Dom facing down the imposing General Ram. Absolute unit of a Locust with tons of armor and a krill shield. He's fairly deadly with his machine gun attacks and his krill, so keep your ass in cover. Now there are several strategies to defeat him. My favorite is the most simple. While you're clearing the train, save your grenades, and when you finally come face to face with Ram, they come in very handy. But because Ram's krill will eat up your shots, use the grenades you save to temporarily break his krill shield, and once that's broken, give Ram everything you've got. Rinse and repeat this a few times, and that should get the best of him. Therefore, after surviving that little fight, Marcus lights a light mass bomb, and it's time to get the fuck out with the light mass bomb going off and the boys flying off into the sunset. So that's why I think Gears of War Reloaded is a lot of fun. It's rough, it's tough, with some great characters and atmosphere in combat and just overall vibes that are fantastic. If it looks like your thing, I absolutely recommend picking it up. You're amazing for making it this far. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.